You know, some people come to me and like, what do you think of cultural appropriation? And I'm like, my answer is not going to speak for the black community. Like, because we're all individuals.
Why do I have to be the mouthpiece for all black people?
Obviously, growing up in Utah religiously, and white, right? Like, it was kind of just like, I never second guessed a lot of things and so when we got married, all of a sudden I started being like, wait a second. And like a lot was like rocking my testimony.
He definitely had a different thought about black people because he didn't really know them, you know? You only have what you see on the media.
And there's a place here waiting for you. For your business, yeah, we're on the Lord's time, sharing his love and his light.
Welcome to another episode of Brothers in the Foyer. My name is Andrew. I'm here with my brothers Maurice and Christian, and we're also here with some special guests. Today we're sitting down with Chelsea and Bedford Dort, an Instagram couple known for keeping it real and navigating life as a blended interracial family. And if you follow them, you can always count on seeing them take on new couples challenges. But behind the fun, they can share an honest look at marriage, co-parenting, and building a strong family dynamic. In this conversation, we're going to dive into their journey, as well as how they met, the challenges and joys of a blended family, and what they've learned along the way. We'll also talk about what it's like sharing their lives so publicly, the impact of representation in Utah, and of course, which one of them wins the most challenges, if they do that. Chelsea and Bedford, welcome to Brothers in the Foyer. Thanks for being here.
Hi,
Thanks
we're
for
excited.
having us.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks for having us.
So you guys have, honestly, when I first heard of you guys, I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember there was a lot of talk because I think a lot of the comments and stuff like that were always on Instagram. You guys always had a lot of just haters. Why y'all got so many haters? What is it?
I think that, it comes with the size of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, one of the things that I tell Bedford all the time that I didn't really anticipate about being in an interracial relationship specifically was that the heat would come from both sides. Like, I kind of knew, obviously that you look at racism and its prevalence, and I kind of knew that would happen, but I didn't necessarily realize how much disapproving feedback we would receive from both sides. Right. And so that's, I kind of think why it's so heavy, because it's coming from everywhere. Mm-hmm. And there's it can sometimes tend to feel like you don't really belong in either place fully. It just kind of hits you from all over the place. And so it seems heavy, but it's also when you're getting hundreds of comments on something, they're not all going to be positive. Yeah. So
kind of comes with the territory, right?
Yeah. You
can't make everybody happy.
And I think part of it too has to do with our family dynamic, right? Mm-hmm. Not only are we a blended couple, but we've got our blended family from Jack's our oldest, being a white, blonde hair, blue-eyed kid. Yeah. And then we've got our mixed kid. And so anybody that has an opinion about any of those things tends to want to share them, I guess. So that's what they do. And,
there's a lot of stuff.
For a while though, kind of bothered us. And, people would ask, hey, why don't we delete these comments and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. But she kind of figured out a reason a good reason to leave them on.
I get a lot of questions about why I don't delete the racist comments. And I'm like, they suck to have there. But also the more I delete the evidence of it, the more people continue to sit in the comfortability that it doesn't exist. Right. And so a lot of comments underneath those comments will say holy cow, is it 1940? Yeah. This is crazy. And I'm but also very real. And so I think that it's really sucky to leave them there. But I do think in the same breath that it's very eye-opening for a lot of people to go through it and say wow. So it's if I want people to see that it's real and I want it to be able to shift in for the better, it has to exist, So gotcha. I leave it.
I remember seeing some of them. I'd be holding back and just go typing, yo mama.
I always say the hardest part about being a person on the internet is being the biggest person on the internet, because even in real life, you're not going to talk to me like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any business. Bedford's always you're going to get me in trouble.
She's a Chihuahua. She's the one that's going to start a scrap. And I'm going to be the one that is stuck with the scrap. So.
But I get really Bedford's don't respond to people, and I'm I can't help it. I gotta say something here. But It's fine.
At least it lives in the light. At least it's out there in the light, so people can see that people are being crazy. Because there's not. I feel like there's nothing like public shame.
Oh
like
my gosh!
If people publicly shame them, like that's the best place for those people to learn.
Yes, and I'm like a specific level of petty in like the sense that like I've gotten racist comments before from people that are like child psychologists, and I have found their employer and then sent them that screenshot and then made sure that they lost their job. Like I am very like, because I think we live in a world, especially in social media, where consequences are just like very void. Like you can kind of just say and do whatever you want and nobody's gonna do anything about it and nothing happens. So I take it pretty seriously sometimes where I'm like, no, my kid's in therapy right now. You're a child psychologist. I can't sit with that. Like, so we're going to do something about it. And that's very vindicating for me. I think sometimes just to like, but for the most part, you just can't really do anything. You just kind of have to let it be.
I think that's wild. Is that why would you be so bold to say that publicly?
And then have your full
all your info, who you are, all that.
But please do. I will.
If you're gonna be like that, make sure we can see everything.
Have a Finster or something.
Don't have a LinkedIn right there for me to just. No.
Make sure to tag your LinkedIn.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. If you were thinking about it.
Maybe just don't do that in the first place.
Don't do it anyway. Keep doing tips and tricks.
Keep doing it so we can send it to your employee.
Yeah, seriously.
So we had all this has happened, but I want to kind of get the origin story, you guys. How did y'all meet? How did Bedford and Chelsea cross paths?
Bedford has a very specific way he likes to tell this story.
It's the only way to tell the story. We met on Tinder.
All right.
So
okay, swiping right.
Yeah, it was a Friday night.
I respect it.
Super late at night, and I was like, yeah, swipe. And then she swiped back, and I was like, yes. What are the odds of that?
Well, he usually will be like, it was late. I was in a dark room. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. It's not like that. It was just swiping on Tinder. So
you did swipe right.
It worked out. I don't know. So I had a 2-year-old so I was married before, got divorced. When we started talking, he was just turned 2. And he asked me out on a date, and I was kind of sick of dating just because I mean, I was 22. Most people my age had never been married, let alone had kids. And so I would like get attached to people, like, I mean, after a while. And it was never a secret that I had a kid. Yeah. But then as soon as it was like, hey, would you actually like to meet him? Then it was like, no. Like, and then they would just kind of disappear. And I was so sick of it. So when he asked me out, I was like, that's fine, but I'm taking my 2-year-old. And I thought he'd say no, but he didn't.
Well, I kind of was like, ooh. Okay, I mean, you know what? I'll be a gentleman. Like, we'll go on a date. It'll be fine. I ain't going to be like, that's it though. And like straight up told my friends, like, I'm never seeing this girl again. Because I was too afraid to be a parent. Let's call a spade a spade. I wasn't ready for that. Oh, yeah. And so and she knows.
How old were you at the time?
I'm
24.
24, yeah. Okay. So I'm 24. I want nothing to do with being a dad. Yeah. We go on a date. It was actually a good date. Kid. Yeah. He was a kid. He was a 2-year-old. Didn't eat nothing that I paid for. Nothing's changed. Like
nuggets.
I mean, hey, he's 13. Still doesn't do it. And then like we ended up hanging out a lot more, and it worked out. So I don't know that it's a good practice to bring your kids on first dates, but it worked out.
Well, we actually just posted a video about this on my platform a little while ago, kind of saying that he was like, said he didn't want to go on another date afterwards, but then it ended up working. And it has like 50 million views. And it's literally because people are mad that I took my kid on my first date. They're mad.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah, they're mad that he said he didn't want to go out with me again. And like, then they're like, you shouldn't have taken a pity date. Like, it's the things people get. But then I'm like, y'all, it worked out.
Yeah.
Like, it's
There's
okay.
actually a heap of people as well that have been like, oh, dude, I was that guy. Like, I was not going on a second date, and now I have 3 other
5 kids
you know?
or whatever.
Right. But I'm going to keep it buck. I probably wouldn't even go on the first one. No offense, but
100%.
What made you like, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Like, I took her on the first date, and I don't know. She says she sent the message earlier, but like, you know how communication on Tinder, you got to log in and look at that. So we had the date set up, and I felt like it was like, oh, I don't have a sitter. My kid's going to come. And I was like, kind of on the way up anyway when I looked at it.
So it's by default.
So I was like, I'm already halfway here. I'm not about to. Like, but like worked out. It worked out. She's a good person. The kid's a great kid.
That's awesome.
Like he was on his best behavior for a 2-year-old.
Yeah, he did good. I mean, honestly, we've had 4 other 2-year-olds since then, and he was
they would have blown
good 2-year-old.
They would have blown it for sure.
He did pretty good.
And your mom would have been happy too. She was like, automatic grandma right there.
Yeah.
Grandma was happy about it.
Oh my gosh. Well, she was, his mom was calling her his grandson before we were like,
it was quick.
Officially dating.
Grandbaby is like, no, it's not.
He's like, she's telling people that at church.
Your mom loves kids, man. She keeps all of them in her wallet like a Pokemon cards.
Pokemon.
Gotta collect them
So
all.
how many you get? I got 30. You know?
Yeah, because you guys are family, right?
Yeah.
Yep, it's my cousin.
Yeah.
First cousin.
Wow.
My mom had I think she had the first grandkid, and she was flaunting one. She's like, yeah, I got 3 grandkids, and then your mom came out of nowhere. She's like, I got 30.
That's what happened, actually. Yeah, Darius was first.
She puts her cards back in the pocket.
So this family dynamic, I mean, you guys are now serious. You're going to be getting married and everything. Yeah. How did the families on both sides, how'd they accept this? What was the
I feel
response?
like it was pretty seamless.
It was pretty seamless. I think the only person that like even her dad sat me down and was like, hey, you know what you're doing. This is going to be hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, my daughter is my daughter and I love her and she's great, but you also have my grandkid and this is not something you've done before. And quite frankly, from here forward, she's never had a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, or 5-year-old either. And so like they loved our relationship, but yeah, he was the only person that was like, do you realize how hard this is going to be?
Well, transparently, I came out of a relationship where my ex-husband had had an affair for a long time. And so my parents were watching me come out of a disaster. Like,
a lot of trauma.
Like, yes, so much trauma. And I think that they were worried about what came next. And like, my dad asked him, like, are you ready to deal with like, because it's not over for her. Like, and there will be things that come up. Like, are you
gotta commit?
Are you ready for that? Yeah. You know? And, like, I think that as we've gone forward, I think that was a very fair question, you know, because we've seen stuff like that. But I mean, aside from that, I feel like his mom was like, are you going to ask her to marry you every day? And like, his sisters are my best friends. And I don't feel like, I mean, my family is, I feel like it was very seamless.
It's been pretty awesome.
I get lots of messages from people that say like, oh, like, was that okay for you? Because our families did not think that it was okay for me to marry a Black man. And I'm like, it's so real and I see it all the time, but we're very blessed that wasn't our situation.
Yeah. I feel like we're lucky that we're like, I've known people who've had their side of the family freak out.
Yeah.
Luckily, like, I'm mixed, so like I'm sure like for you it maybe it's a little bit different, but like for me, like marrying somebody who's white, being a part of that family is like, it's just like my family.
Yeah, because you already have half of it. I wouldn't say it wasn't bad. People weren't negative, but they were just really apprehensive. They were just like,
yeah.
These are 2 different cultures, 2 different perspectives. We don't know anybody Black. You're like the first Black person we really know personally. And so we don't know what to say, what not to say, or, you know, just a whole nother dynamic, you know,
Sure.
and a lot of things I just was not aware of that I was taught from them. Cause I feel like it was a learning experience for both of us, you know, just certain things, but it was overall, it was a lot of a lot of informing, and you know, but respectfully, I know my father-in-law may watch this, but he definitely had a different thought about Black people because he didn't really know them. You know, you only have what you see on the media, or on TV, and so he was always a respectful man. I really look up to him. I see him as a father figure now. He's a really, really great man, and but yeah, it was a lot of opportunities for me to teach him and for him to learn things. It's just been like an educational thing, and vice versa, you know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it was that for you guys when you in your marriage, just for you personally, and then for your family, or was it kind of like, oh, that makes sense? I mean, I don't really have any problem with that, or was it just a?
No, I feel like, I mean, especially religiously, And this could take us in a completely different direction, but I think that this is probably the most eye-opening in terms for like with my family, is that obviously growing up in Utah religiously, and white, right? Like it was kind of just like I never second guessed a lot of things and so when we got married, all of a sudden I started being like, wait a second. And like a lot was like rocking my testimony, like a lot of things that are just hard, you know, when it comes to like the priesthood and things like that. And I had to like have a very serious conversation about that with my parents because it came up, and it was like a lot of back and forth in the sense of like, they're still in their experience that they've had their whole lives. And it was hard for them to understand why I was having a hard time. And, you know, so I think that there are situations like that, but they're very open. And that's something that I'm really grateful for, is that they're very willing to like listen and like understand why it would feel that way. And then they start to feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, I can see what, you know.
That's some empathy.
And so, and it's been that way in a lot of circumstances. Yeah. Like, you know, my brother's a police officer. And so we've also had conversations in that way of like, can you understand perspective and feeling? And, but I feel like, and this is just my perspective, but I feel like my parents have been really good at trying to like listen and understand and, you know, take in information and a reality that's not theirs and then move forward in a better way. So.
Yeah, no, I'll vouch. Like they're top tier. Like I love my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. Their ridiculous level of empathy and level-headedness, and quite frankly, willingness to be like, I've lived 50, 60 some odd years, this kind of thought. And then now, wait a second, like this is something new. And it's not that they were ever racist in any way, shape, or form, but quite frankly, like, oh, there's a whole new perspective that needs to be seen. They've done an immaculate job of not only seeing it, embracing it, and quite frankly, sometimes even like, you know what, you are right. I don't understand. Then we need to seek answers together. You know?
Right.
So, yeah.
It's always funny when you get that. So is it okay if I call you a
do I get a pass?
Yeah.
No pass here.
not necessarily that one.
No.
Like, you know, like, I had one experience with my uncle's mother-in-law. She's like, "Can I call you? Do you still go by colored, or do you still go by black or African,
Afro-American?"
Like, what am I supposed to do? Those conversations are always.
It's crazy though, because I feel like, so I grew up here obviously, and I think about high school, and I'm like, there were maybe 3 Black people in my school. Like, I did not know any of them. Like, I didn't. And so it's like, and we talk about this a lot, like experience-wise, unless something forces you out of like the white experience, you're kind of just in it. That's just, and there's a lot of things that I'm a huge, like I want to take in a ton of information and I want to learn so that I can do better, so that I can, like, I'm obsessive about making sure I know how to take care of my kids' hair, and that I, like, those are all really important to me. And they're actually important to my parents. Like when my kids go stay at my parents' house, my mom's like calls me and she's like, okay, so you want me to use this one? You don't want me to use this? Like, is this good for them? Because it matters to them too. But I think that, you know, until your reality is what it is, until it's like forced to shift into something different. And so I've had a lot of come to Jesus moments for myself where I'm like, holy cow, like my whole reality, like it's not false, right? But it is accurate for me, but it's not even close to the same as his in so many ways. And, but we've also had a lot of conversations where we feel like I've learned a lot from him, but he's also learned a lot from me, you know? And so,
like how to be on time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Not really. Like more of a force.
I'm still teaching that. That's
something you just born
I'm like
with. You can't get
pulling
rid of
him
that.
out the door by his ear still. But I mean, even just things where he's like, you know, immediately feels like offended, and I'm like, hold for a second. Like, can we just talk through this? Because just as a white person, I'm just going to come out and say that, like, I don't know that was, you know, and like explaining my perspective of maybe an experience and how that person may have been thinking or feeling based off of being here with only white people and no experience, and things that are not necessarily like, they're not trying to be offensive, but they're trying really to find like, is it okay if I call you Black? Is that okay? Or do you want to be called brown? Or like, what would you prefer? And there's just a lot of that. But
Yeah.
That's something I've learned to try to do is just give everyone just an opportunity to, give them a space,
Yeah.
if you don't.
Smidgen of grace.
Yeah,
Yeah,
grace.
just a
That's
little.
it.
Yeah.
Because majority of people, I mean, there's obviously you can
Oh
see it in your
my
comments.
gosh.
There's blatant people out there who are that. But
Yes.
there's people, a lot of it, most of them just want to learn.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't feel punished for wanting to ask and be able to be informed and learn
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get out of ignorance.
well, it's because sometimes you get like squeezed into this box a little bit where you're like, I'm not supposed to ask because it's my job to educate myself. But if I educate myself online, right, and then I get the wrong answer, because let's be real, it's not the right answer for everyone, then also I'm wrong. Because I've been caught in that wave too, where I post something and I'm like, well, this is kind of what I was told from so and so and so. But then there's a million people that are upset about that, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, it's
Like we live in a world too where some people will assume that like all black people have the exact same
Yeah.
same
Bro,
ideas.
no.
It's like, what do you think of, some people come to me and like, what do you think of cultural appropriation? I'm like, my answer is not going to speak for the black community. I just
Right.
the president. Like, because we're all individuals.
Why do I have to be the mouthpiece for all black people? Yeah.
I need you to know right off the bat that ain't going to be it.
Yeah.
Right.
I heard Dr. Umar say, I'm not the president of black people.
people tag him in my comments a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
So he's not the president of black people. And I'm always like impressed, like the way, like, you actually, I've noticed like you learn a lot, especially the way you do his dreads and stuff. She does his dreads.
Really?
Mine will
She's
be
the
looking
one.
ratchet,
She's
but
I
she
do.
does his dreads, that's
I mean, that's impressive. You took it
know?
upon yourself to.
We were living in like a 600 square foot
We were
apartment.
living in squalor.
We had nothing. And he was like, I really want to lock my hair. And he was like, I think you could probably do it. And I was like, but mostly because I was really afraid of other people seeing it, like black people
Yeah.
specifically seeing it and being
Bro,
like,
who did your hair?
Yeah.
My
that?
goodness.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, I
Yeah.
don't want that. But I watched like 20 hours of videos.
Nailed it.
And the first time we did it, it took us 9 hours. It came out immediately the next day.
Mm.
And then we redid it. But honestly, like that's just what we did. We didn't really have an option. And
That's fair.
so
Hey.
just kind of figured out. I did it with the kids' hair,
I
you
know,
know?
Come on.
Well, that's awesome. I've been trying to get my wife to figure out how to give me a fade forever
Oh,
because
that's,
my hair grows so fast. I could literally get a haircut every 4 days.
oh,
That's
And
pricey.
yeah, exactly. I'm like $50 a haircut. Like, I do all the math. I'm like, that's $3,000 a year.
Right?
I think
For
if we would
$200,
have,
we could get some clippers. You'd be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, babe. Just YouTube's there. We'll teach you.
but honestly, I think that I've like, hair is such a labor of love now for me. And I think it's because it used to cause me a lot of anxiety. Like, I know that hair is a huge deal for Black people. Like, it's such a huge part of their culture. And like, I wanted my girls, especially, like obviously my boys, but I wanted my girls to grow up with like a love for their hair. And like when it came time for them to care for it, they weren't like, man, if I had had a Black mom, like, you know,
Mhm.
that was heavy for me as a white woman. I wanted to be like, my mom, maybe she didn't do a perfect job, but she figured it out. Like, it was worth it to her. And so I try really hard to like instill this like level of like, I appreciate you and your culture and how important this is in culture for you, even though I won't fully understand. And I feel like it was kind of the same with Bedford, where it was like, we can't afford this right now, but this is something that is like important to you. And, you know, and so we kind of just figured it out. But that was always like such a huge fear for me that I've kind of just tried to shift it to like,
The strength.
Yeah.
a love language.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Because you always see, like here in Utah, at least, there's a lot of people who adopt kids.
Mm.
And you see that one Black kid who's been adopted by two white parents who don't know how to take care of their hair.
Yeah,
Nope.
they just
And-
they throw lotion in it,
Shops,
thinking
like-
that's all it is.
Wash it with Tresemme,
And
move on.
yeah, I mean it's sad because like they just don't know.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just-
Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's just it's honestly like almost completely different.
Mm.
It is.
And it's
Yeah.
such a part of
Yeah.
like our experience that that people just don't understand unless they're in that.
Yeah, you
I
don't know what you don't
agree,
know.
though. Like sometimes you think people don't understand, but they really do because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
part of like natural hygiene too. We all
Yeah.
want
True.
to look clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Latino, whatever. you all want to look clean. You all want to look like fresh in your own way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And so the trick is like, you know, a lot of times you see these little black kids that have been adopted and mom looks great. Dad's haircut's phenomenal, but they just never knew what to do with something
Kids'
else.
kneecaps is ashy.
Yup.
And just
Man.
hair dried in this desert, man.
It's a lesson thing, because when we were dating, he used to be like, I got to put like a headband on or a hat because
My line is
my line is
ridiculous.
bad.
Yeah.
And I
Speaking of lineups,
kind of would be like, I would kind of be like, I think it looks cool. Like it's fine. It's not, because I didn't grow up with that. Like that was not a thing. Like that was not even really. And so I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And now I'm like,
yeah.
Well,
You should
get your
fix
hat.
You
What are you
need to
doing?
go get a haircut.
right? And so it's like, I think that especially with children, specifically people that are adopting children, if that's not something that you were used to, like that's not something that is just going to be front of mind to
Yeah.
be like, I should clean this up. Like I see it now and I'm like, would you like me to?
You want me to introduce you to
don't want help,
somebody?
you know, and that's fine.
See,
But like, you
yeah.
feel bad because I do want. I think it is important for my children. We live somewhere that's very white, and we make it like very specific effort to meet.
Me, I'm just not letting my wife touch my hair, man. It hurts. When she does. I feel like she's
Bedford
doing it on
whines the
purpose.
whole time. So
Like she tried to do my,
on the
but with her, she just like pulls it under and
Yeah.
she does it.
but guess
you know,
what?
and
She's
try
had
to
it
pull
done to her hair a million
Yeah.
times, and she's just sat there
Yeah.
like champ. So she's like, you can handle it.
She was trying to give me a lineup the one time, you know, and I think she was kind of mad at me. I was like making her mad and stuff. And she's like, you gotta stay. And then she went, zzz. I'm like, really though? Really? You did that on purpose.
That
you know?
wasn't-
You did that on purpose.
Nah. No, but,
But no.
I honestly, I admire you that you took it
Thank you.
upon yourself to, you know, you want to take care of your man and also your children. I mean,
Yes.
my wife, she does hair, and she didn't know the first thing about how to do a black man's hair. But now she cuts my hair, and everyone asks me, who cut your hair?
Yeah.
You know, and like she's really good at what she does. And then we have our 2-year-old. He has like the most curliest hair, and she looked at every type of product that's best for his texture and all this stuff, and just took it upon herself to do that, you know. And if we have a girl that she's going to do the same thing, just want to make sure that the kids look good and, you know, not look like ragamuffins walking around,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
And so
That'd be it.
I think that's really good. And I think it's funny that out here in Utah, you can get away with that, having your hair a little nappy because some people just don't realize.
Oh yeah.
I
Get super far.
I have a story
Back
about
home, they
that
be like,
big time. So, Andrew and I used to work together,
Oh, yeah.
but like I was there first, and no other black people there.
Yeah.
And this is like a 1,000-person company, so I always show up like, oh man, I'm a little bit ashy. That's okay. No one's gonna notice.
Nobody knows.
Oh, I don't have my hair done. I don't got my lineup in. I walk in one day, he's in there. I'm like, oh, I need to do my hair, bro. I gotta get some lotion and make sure I'm not looking out of place.
My man called in sick. I gotta change
I'm like,
things.
this man came here and I need to spend way more money on haircuts.
And if you live in a black community, you don't have your hair done. Like I remember growing up in Haiti. Like they only give like the electricity, like I think like some time. So most of the time they would do it as on Sunday. I remember my dad cutting my hair one time with like the razor and blackout. I'm like, oh no, you know, like in the middle, like I was like, he's like, you going to school like this? I was like, can I wear a hat? He's like, nope. I went to school with my hair all like patches everywhere, man. Like kids were over here looking at me. If they had a camera. They had phones. I would have been all over the internet. Yeah.
So switching gears here just a little bit. How is, in terms of your like being a member of the church, how was your experience, you know, being in a mixed family with LDS Church, and like, was it good right away? Did it take time to get used to it? And how was people's responses?
I think overall, it's good. I think the last couple of years have been just for myself trying to be like, man, like, how do I navigate what I know now and then still end up with my feet here. Like, how do I do that? That's really hard. And he's like, I've just been doing it, you know? And he's like, you kind of just gotta, and he's literally been coaching me through this process of like, because I'm reading the scriptures and I'm like, wait a second. Like, I need to think about this for a second. This isn't sitting right with me. And it's been really heavy, like on my soul. And like thinking about that as a mother and how I'm going to raise my children. And when they have questions, I can't just be like, well, it's because the scripture said so. Like, that's not good enough for me. That's the response I've always gotten. Like, well, that's because it was a God thing, you know? Like, what do I want to be able to say to my kids? And that's the truth. And so this question feels harder for me because I feel like the people, great. Like, we've only had one really poor experience from somebody within the church in terms of race. We had, when we first moved into our house.
Oh, yep.
The primary presidency came over. We had been there for like a week. We were still moving. And
You got boxes everywhere, right?
Mhm.
You know how to.
And she comes in and she's introducing herself and she's like, we love the neighborhood. The neighbor's great. You know, lots of kids. And she was like, it's super safe, but like I would still have your kids like bring their bikes in and stuff at night just because, you know, people still steal things. And she's like, I tell my kids to do it, but they always say like, Mom, we live in an all white neighborhood. And like,
And I'm standing there like,
the woman is
did.
standing in my house and she's there to meet my kids. Right. And I was like, it's cool. We won't steal your stuff. Like, and she kind of was like, oh, that's not what I meant. That's not. And I was like, well, like, but I feel like that's realistically, that's the only experience I've ever had from the people.
Yeah.
Most people are very loving and they're very, you know, but from a spiritual standpoint, as far as like how to teach my kids, how to help them acclimate and be in and understand things the right way, like I'm going through that. So he's, you know, we're kind of all working through that together.
yeah. And we have a lot of conversations about the difference between, you know, people that are chosen from our Heavenly Father to lead, right? Versus like they're still people, right?
Yeah.
Men of God, but they're still men.
Mm-hmm.
And God has to work with what he's got, right?
Yeah. True.
And so for me, I've had that conversations because, you know, I've been out on a mission. I've knocked doors, right? And had people be like, wait a second, ain't got no black people in your church.
Right.
Like, dude, I'm representing the church on your
Right?
You trying to
It's-
rob me?
right. Just a
They
minute.
don't get no real in this.
I got a badge and everything. I don't know what you're talking about, right? And so like that, you know, I've had those conversations over and over and over again, but it's been interesting to watch someone kind of go through and be like, okay, well, we do have to reset because just because a person is called of God doesn't mean they're a perfect person, right?
Mhm.
And when you think about it, a lot of us have had different callings in the church, right?
Yeah.
I've even been in a bishopric.
Yeah.
And I look at myself and I'm like, God chose me
Mhm.
to be in a bishopric. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't have chose myself.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm kind of real comfortable with that because I've been in it for a
Yeah.
long time. But like working through it with my wife where it's like, yes, we're all sinners. We've all come short of the glory of God.
Mhm.
And that includes some of these older prophets, you know, which is kind of rough to say. But at the same time, it's like either that or God loves me less. And I'm not accepting that
Yeah.
alternative.
Right.
And so,
No, I think that's just if you look throughout all the scriptures, every single one of these men had a shortcoming. They had a
Yeah.
weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes it humanizes them a little bit more. You know, I mean, Peter, same dude who walked with Jesus every single day, denied him 3 times,
right.
Right.
was told, hey, why do you doubt faith, or why do you have little faith, you know, and then cut the dude's ear off too as well. I mean, I'm telling you, if that's a weak dude, I mean, that's it. Attempted murder. I mean, really? And so it's like, I think it's so important to ask those questions, you know, to always take a step back and ask, because I think that's where this gospel started. It started with a question. And I feel like if we feel like we can't ask questions and seek answers, then it's not working out. But I feel like everything, if we ask sincerely with true, you know, desire, those answers will reveal themselves, you know. And I appreciate you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And I think that's really powerful. I feel like anybody and everybody who's, you know, questions about church history or any type of history religiously, you should always ask questions and seek God, you know, and he'll reveal the answers unto us, you know. And so that's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think as well, if you throw that into, like, the whole gospel is about showing faith, right? Showing our faith in our Heavenly Father, His plan, right? And you can't have faith if you have all the answers. It doesn't work like that, right? And so you will get answers, you will get manifestations from the Spirit and maybe ideas of what you should do. But at the end of the day, like, it does take a measure of faith to be like, I still don't get it 100%.
Yeah.
But I do understand enough to I believe my Heavenly Father's working through a prophet on this earth. I believe my Heavenly Father's working through, leaders in the church that may or may not be perfect, but they're doing the best they can, right? And you have to have a little bit, there's always going to be a sprinkle of that faith, because if you don't have faith, there is no plan, right? So,
yeah, that's a good point.
Another question I want to ask you guys, just along your journey, what made you guys really want to share your experiences and start sharing your lives with, the internet and opening that up to the world?
I think as men, like, I've always had something to tell me whether I'm doing a good job, right? So she's always been a stay-at-home mom. I've always been hey, I'm earning a paycheck, so I go out to work and I get paid. Or my boss gives me hey, attaboy. As a mom, that doesn't happen. Kids are wonderful, they're blessings, but they're also not very appreciative of what you do, right? Everybody has kids.
Literally zero.
Right? Mom's probably the worst job ever. So
I'm the best. I really do want to say that, but it is the hardest
for sure.
job I have ever had.
And you got 20 jobs on
Not
top
the
of that,
worst
too.
hardest.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes.
how about the least physically rewarding. It is ultra rewarding too when they grow up, right? But like, you don't get those nuggets of rewards over and over and over again that I got. And so we kind of sat down one day because she's down in the dumps, like, this is hard, and it is, right?
Yeah.
I was like, you got to do something for yourself, and it started with a blog, right? So
yeah, I mean, I really, I think I just really appreciate words and like what they, like how powerful they are. So I love to read. I started blogging at the time. That was the thing. I blogged for the Huffington Post for a little while for
Cool.
in their divorce category. And, but then blogs kind of died. And I was like, I originally started an Instagram to filter people through to the blog. And then my Instagram started as a fitness account, and then that just wasn't fulfilling. And then, but there were moments, and it was always like my Sunday family photo where you post about it, maybe share your testimony or just post something that was kind of on my mind or whatever. And, that would always astronomically do better than anything that I was doing fitness wise. And so I was like, maybe there's like a pivot here that makes more sense and is more fulfilling. And so we started shifting in that direction, and 100% it was more fulfilling. I think that you get a lot of people that reach out and say like, I am getting married, and like, my fiance is Black or my fiance is white, and like our family was giving us a really hard time, but like we're really grateful that you guys are showing like such a good example of like how this can work and how it can be happy and cultures can like blend and mesh. And so it really is like a community. But I feel like the more vulnerable I've been willing to be, the more connective the space has become. So it really is a safe space, even though it's like full of trash in a lot of ways. But it really is like a safe space for a lot of people to be like, I mean, we've had people that have met through our comment section because they both live in the same area. And they're like, oh my gosh, we should get together sometime. And they'll get together, and now they have this connection somewhere else. Right. So for a long time I did it. It was free, $99. I didn't get paid. I didn't make anything from it. Now it's our full-time job. But Bedford would always be like, I'd be like, I've got to comment back to these people and I need to. And he would be like, why? And I was like, because this is all I've got. Like, this is the only thing that's making this fulfilling for me. And even if I was making money, it still would. And so like now, yes, like we make money, but I think it's the connection and giving people a safe space to land and say, or like ask questions. We get lots of people that are like white people. They're like, can I ask you a question? This may sound like really stupid or like ignorant, but I'm just wondering, is this an okay way to ask this? And so, but it's been just like a really fulfilling space. Kind of hard in some ways, but
I think I mean, there's been so many stories of people either with questions about the church, questions about their relationships, what they should do. Obviously, her platform includes her divorce and how that happened. And I kid you not, we'd be in Target and the lady would just break down crying.
Oh,
like,
really?
I'm going through a divorce. You're the only person I know. I can't believe I'm meeting you in real life.
I'm not great in those situations.
And for
just so
her,
you guys know. I was like,
Don't do it again. No.
I'm so sorry.
she tries her best, but like just even knowing that she's making a difference in somebody that doesn't have anybody else to talk to, which is kind of weird for me to think of. Like we live in this world where we really do communicate with everybody, but at the same time, are we really connected to anybody?
Yeah.
There's no real.
You know,
connection.
I could literally send a message to LeBron, but that doesn't mean we're actually talking. You know?
Right.
Like I can connect with him, but I'm not connected. And so for people to have that kind of connection space of like, no, this is a real human that's actually sharing some of their difficulties, that's actually sharing kind of some of the tough stuff that life includes, like has been ultra rewarding for her. And for me to watch like the difference that she's made in other people, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been so cool.
Probably the most like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Impactful.
relatable. No, relatable story for here. That is, I mean, yes, both. I had a Black woman reach out maybe like 5 years ago.
Okay.
And she had said like, I had met with the missionaries and I got baptized and I was going to church. And then my mom and my grandma started looking into church history and they were giving me a really hard time about it. Like, and I so I just stopped going. And she was like, I left the church and she's like, and then I became anti-Mormon and I was like posting all over my Facebook and saying all of these horrible things. And she's like, but I've been following you. Can I just ask you what your thoughts are? And so we had a conversation about it. And I told her like, I'm not, or I would ask Bedford, I'd say, hey, what do you think? And I would tell her what he thought. And we would talk back and forth about it for a while. Well, COVID came and she was like,
I can't remember where she lived, but she's not in Utah.
in like Kentucky. So she wasn't even close. But when COVID came, she was like, can I maybe ask you if you could potentially get the link for your guys's? Because she's like, I'm embarrassed to ask my bishop because of everything that I've said, which I said you shouldn't be, right? But she was like, if you can get just the link for your services, could I watch your services instead of my own? And I was like, sure. And so for a long time, she came to our services that you would just watch via Zoom or whatever. And then she messaged me later and said that she was going back to church. And then she messaged me again. And like, so now she's going back, right? But I think, again, it's those things that are like, make it really worth the time. And like, you get all the crappy comments and whatever. But I always just say like, those things bring me more of the right people.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's fine. Like, if you guys want to propel this into freaking outer space with the crap, that's fine. But it brings you more of the right people that are looking for the right things, that are can connect in the right ways. And so, but it's wild how many good things are like capable of coming your way when you're willing to be like vulnerable and open.
Yeah.
So
I completely just validate that. I feel like we get comments. I mean, not a lot of people are too bold on our Instagram yet. I mean, maybe it's more on TikTok.
just wait.
But yeah, it's coming. But when we get that one person who's like, man, I was looking for something like you guys. You know, I wish you guys were around years ago. Man, this really touched me what you guys said. You know, when you hear that, it just makes all this bootstrapping that we've been doing, and, you know, all the hard work hours that we've been putting in these videos and all that stuff, it makes it worth it. It's like, man, I'm so happy I helped somebody. You know, I made a difference in someone's life.
And even when you start making money, it still is that. Is the thing. Like, I don't know that I anticipated for that to be the case. For that to still be like, but I hope it stays that way forever, because like, you really have to love what you're doing.
This is such a hard thing to do. It takes so much time.
I've had so many jobs. And this is the hardest job I've ever had.
Like, you never get more negative feedback than when your life's out there, and you're trying to protect your kids from it all at the same time. And it's like, it's so tough. But then you just get one or two people that you really do feel like we've made a difference or a change. And even if it's just a little bit of hope, you know, that's it. And you're like, okay, that was worth it.
Right,
That was
right.
worth it.
And it's
So-
still like, it still is that. Like, I would still keep doing it if I wasn't getting paid because it really has just built a space that I love. So
Yeah, you guys do show a lot of restraint though. Like I remember I'd be reading the comments. I'm like Chelsea and Bedford holding back, so maybe I should hold back. I'll be like, your mama, your mama, your mama.
but it's funny because I tell him
Examples.
all the time.
Yeah.
Because at home I always say your mom. And so
Yeah,
sometimes
literally
I'm,
is
like, I'm just
well,
going to
your
start
mom.
saying that to me.
Yeah. Speaking of
But-
connection, I did message LeBron James to give me $500. $500,000.
Get back to you.
He didn't get back to me.
Did he?
Oh, I wonder why.
Come on, go. What's going on?
I shot my shot, man.
You got to
Shot
go
my
with
shot.
Elon Musk, 500,000.
Say, hey,
That's like
I need a house, bro.
So you guys have put your family or put yourselves, you guys are in the spotlight, and everybody's obviously looking at the children, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
How are you guys planning on trying to, I mean, you guys are doing it. How are you like going through that with raising your kids kind of indirectly in the spotlight, but then also just having that biracial background as well? How are you guys doing that and helping your kids have confidence and, you know?
I think it's hard because, well, we're pretty, like, our kids get to pick what they're in and what they're not in. Because the reality, too, is that the kids grow up on, like, watching YouTube and seeing all the stuff. And they'll be like, Mom, we should do this trend. Like, they love those things.
Really?
But if they don't want to be in it, they don't have to be in it. If they're crying or if they're sad, we're not putting them on camera.
Mhm.
Like, they have to be fully clothed. We're not putting our baby in a diaper on the camera. Like,
That's
I'm
weird,
pretty
isn't it?
picky about stuff like that. And I'm also like, it's never been my goal to build a platform that was like solely based on my children because like our kids get paid. They, you know, but at the end of the day, I'm like, if they want to go to a friend's house instead, they can go to their friend's house. Like this isn't their job, you know?
It's our job, not
Yeah.
theirs.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and
So what you
go
see them in, they're very willingly like in. And if you don't see them, it's because they didn't want to do it.
Mm.
Like, and that's okay. And people will ask questions and be like, where's so-and-so? Why isn't this person in it? I'm like, they didn't want to be.
Mm.
In terms of mixed kids, though, and I think maybe you'll understand this a little bit, maybe as a mixed adult. But I see a lot of things come in comment-wise for my children. My children aren't allowed to have social media, so they'll never see the comments. They don't.
That's awesome.
But
Yeah,
it's good.
I do see it, and I just know that it will be their reality as they grow up. But it's a lot of like, don't call them mixed, they're black. Or they're like, don't call them black, they're not black. And
yeah.
and those are ones that I've hit back really hard sometimes because I'm like, look at y'all selves like in the comments.
Yeah.
Like you guys are so contradicting, you know, about like what somebody else's identity is allowed to be. You think you have the like, for some reason, you're the person that gets to choose.
you get
And
to be
so,
the authority
Yeah.
on how
Yeah.
much blackness is official and certified,
Right.
and I,
or how much
not the-
whiteness is necessary. Like,
so I think that in terms of raising mixed children,
Not the 40.
that is actually, or just like seeing the online space has given me a little bit of a glimpse into what their reality will look like as they grow up and like what they will kind of encounter and go through and how people will view them. And, but that being said, I feel like it's a little bit of a blessing in the sense that I've seen it and I
Yeah.
can be like, okay, we're going to counter
You know,
a little bit
Yeah.
to affirm who you are now
Yeah.
and like help you like identify with who you want to be. Like right now, if I tell my kids they're black, they're like, Dad's black.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I want you to do whatever you want. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and honestly, people will be like, well, if they grow up and call themselves black, that's rude to you as their mom because you're white. And I'm like, I want them to identify however they see themselves. Like that does not bother me. I do not care. But it has given us the ability to say like, okay, well, right now we need to instill in them like a sense of identity because it looks like it's going to get ripped out from underneath them
Yeah.
as they grow up to be like, well, where the freak do I belong? Because I'm not this and I'm not that. And I can't say I'm this and I can't, because that's probably the biggest conversation about our kids online.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the people that are like, holy cow, they're the prettiest kids I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because mixed kids, especially here,
Yeah.
or
It's
black
Commodity.
kids,
Everybody
like,
loves those. Yeah.
I mean, I have a white kid too, and he did not get that same attention. And, but I think like So I will say that that's the blessing in it, is that it's given us like the foresight to be able to instill like a very strong sense of identity.
Who you are is who you decide to be.
Yeah. Who do you
okay.
want to be?
Because even in the history time, you know, like if you were like 1% black,
Yeah, the one.
they'd be like, you black,
Yes.
you know.
Yep.
And I
One
tell my
drop
wife that,
rule,
Yeah. And it goes both ways to bite them now, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like back then it was very, again, I'm very like, I love reading these things so that I can just like understand. But like back then it was very one-sided. Like it was very beneficial for white people. Like, and they used it however they could, right? But now it kind of goes both ways to bite somebody that is mixed, because it's like, however I want to use it.
Yeah.
So like if you, and it seems like impossible a little bit for them to win, to be able to belong to a specific community. I will say most of our community is interracial families,
Yeah.
because I feel like they are like,
get
we
it.
belong here.
Yeah.
Even for me too, like my wife is half white, half black,
Yeah.
you know. And they look at my kids and like, so are you the father? You know?
And they are
like,
start
right,
trying
it's
to
just
add
because they
that.
light, you know, it's because they light.
Three
I mean,
quarters?
Throw in the white and see what happens.
Yeah.
Hey, people go, wow, like, what is
You know.
happening? It's like,
Right.
guys,
we're gonna make
Use
them
some
mad.
common sense.
We want to adopt, so we're probably gonna.
Yeah.
we're gonna make them mad.
It's so interesting because I've kind of, obviously I've gone through this my whole life. And
Yes.
now I start to shift like ideologically a little bit, because it used to be, oh, I'm mixed, but like I'd hang out with the black kids, and me being LDS and part black, but you know,
Conflicting.
Yeah.
it's like it's conflicting because I'm never black enough.
yep.
You know, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll hang out with my LDS white friends who are all white. Oh, I'm not white enough, you know.
Yeah.
But it's kind of an interesting, you know, like you can always choose who you want to be with. But I've started less identifying myself as mixed and more going towards biracial,
Yeah.
because that's what I am.
Yeah.
I am black, I am white.
Yeah.
You know, I like I might not be, you know,
Yeah.
like it might not fit in every spot, but I pick where I want to be, where I want to be with, who I want to be around, and you know, it can definitely be a struggle, and like your kids will go through it.
Yeah.
And it's-
100%.
Because and also too, like even like if like, you know, if you half European, Latin and stuff like that, people say you're mixed. You're not gonna be like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
I'm only
what is he? He's like, you know,
Yeah.
light skin Latin. You know, like light skin Latin.
Yeah.
I do like the term light skin.
You know what I
so
mean?
I'll take that one. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle, and like anyone who's in this position feels it.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say like I don't want to just be called black, because like my mom, who I love, you know, my family who I love and loves me and cares for me, they're white, you know.
Right.
My black side, or my dark side, how I like to call them, you know, they love me, they care for me, they, you know, they might not be in my life as much, but you know, they're still there, and it's still a part of who I am.
Sure.
And so I don't necessarily like when someone's like, "Oh, you're just black."
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I get to decide.
I think I watched a video online. I don't remember where it was. It was maybe it was a kid or something, but they asked him, you know, what he is. He was like a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah. I think it's very much like that. I think it's, you know, and that's kind of like the conversation that I have essentially had with lots of people online, is like they get to identify, you will never get to choose who they are, how they see themselves, how they, you know, and obviously the argument is always like, well, this is how the world will view them. And I'm like, that's not their problem. Like they, and it might change, right? As they grow up, they might identify this way. And then as they get older, they're like, actually, I don't want to say mixed. I want to, or whatever. And like, that's okay, because that's part of who we are as people, is trying to figure out, like, as we evolve, how we want to be seen, who we want in our circle, regardless of what they look like, what type of energy they bring. However, I do think it's important to have a diverse circle so that you can, you know, relate to people. But overall, I do think it kind of has just, like, that has been the biggest benefit, is like really giving us a glimpse into what life looks like for them as they get older, so that I can really instill in them. But to be fair, that's actually also what gave me a lot of anxiety. I remember going to Bedford one time and just saying, like, do you think I'm even capable of raising these kids? Like, because the internet seems to think that they are worse off because I'm white, you know? Or like when I call them mixed, people will say like, you are saying they're mixed because you need to insert your whiteness into their life. And I'm like, those types of comments, right? And so but it happened so much that I was like, Bedford, do you trust me to like raise our children to be like powerful? Like somebody sent me a video one time of mixed kids that were talking about how, like, essentially the disparities that they felt because they had a white parent that didn't fully understand. Specifically white mothers. Yep. Mm-hmm. I got like 30 seconds in and I was like, oh, this isn't supposed to be nice. Okay. Yeah. But it's hard, right? Yeah. And so it's like, for me, I'm like, I literally had to ask, like, are you good? Like, do you trust me? Because do you think I can raise powerful Black children, like mixed children, to go out into the world? Because I'm very also okay saying like they're going to have experiences that I will never understand. Mm-hmm. And they will not be able to come to me and I won't be able to say, I get it. Mm-hmm. I get it. I can love them and hug them. And that's actually a lot of people's concerns is that like you'll never understand. And I'm okay saying that. And I think that the problem comes in when you aren't okay saying like, I won't fully understand, right? So I know there's going to be situations where I say like, I need you to really sit in this with them because I can hold them and love them. And like, I think that that's worth something, but it might not always be the answer.
I think it's interesting because like even in those videos of people who are saying that, they're not coming from that point of view. Yeah. They've only seen it from one side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they can't, like, not that you can't comprehend, but they are talking about that because they haven't lived that life experience.
Yeah.
They are just only talking to it from one side and how they see the world and how, you know, they see it as a negative.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I see it as a positive because you know, I get a context switch all the time. You know, I can, you know, I see both worlds. I know how both worlds work.
You relate to fit in where you want.
I can
like
fit in whenever
very
I
well
want
balanced, right? Like there's no, like with our kids, I'm like, I feel like we're not, and I don't feel like all families are like this, but in a lot of situations, all white families, like there's very extremist views of a lot of things, right? And it's the same with Black families. Like you have these I think specifically with Black families, a lot of the time when Black people say like, you should marry Black people, I think a lot of the time it comes from like protective space, right? Like they're trying to like protect and stay within a group of people that maybe really get what they're going through. Where usually from a white perspective, it's like more of a racist perspective. Neither of them hurt less, just to say, but I do think that they are different prospectively. But I think that there's like a good like consistency and like well-rounded vibe of like understanding people's realities. Yeah. And I do appreciate that for my children. It's not to say that they don't have that it's not going to be really hard. But I do appreciate that they get to see both realities. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting what you're saying too, because like even in the church, there's that kind of like thinking where you should marry somebody who is a part of the church.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that whole culture, you're trying to protect the culture and how, you know, because I know a lot of people who married someone who isn't LDS and then they kind of shift that way.
Yep.
Correct.
And I think like even with your father, when you were asking to marry her, like she's like, do you know what this is? You know, and everybody's trying to be protective of other people because they want them to be within that culture.
Yeah.
But I think it's the culture that can make or break it.
And I even had a buddy, I'm not gonna say his name. Somehow he was mixed, you know, he ended up in the news, you know? And then they were like, African American male. You know? You know what I mean? Like,
so it's true, yeah.
No, it's just, it does need to change because like it's, you know, I honestly, like I tell my wife, you know, I just, you know, I go with it as if like whatever, like you said, whatever they feel comfortable in being, I think that's what it comes down to. You know, because like people are just people, you know, like we
100.
We all just one, like, you know, you don't have to label markers when you get a color pencil. You don't discriminate which color is better in the you know. So it's pretty much what it is. You can just grab the color you want, and just go with it, So
I think even the biggest thing is that anything that keeps you from forgetting who you truly are, being royal or being loyal to the royal that's within you. You're a son and daughter of a Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
When we understand that title, that overshadows everything. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what people are saying negatively about you, but you know your worth and that you're important to your Father in heaven. Yeah. And that's something that my wife she does these affirmations with our kids every single night before he goes to sleep. He's like, I'm strong. I'm a son of God. I'm this and this and that. I love that. And I think that's so important because the more you tell someone something, the more that's what they will believe. Yeah. And so if you instill that in them while they're young, that's what they will become usually.
I actually was told that I wasn't black by the black dude in Provo. I was like, what are you talking about, man? And then he's like, no, he's trying to educate me about history. And I was like, I want to know because I want to let him talk because I know a lot about history, And then and I was like, so wait, so when somebody passed by and just called me the N-word, I'm supposed to chase after the call. Wait a minute, I'm not black, bro.
That's why it's being definite, being able to stand in where you are and you know who you are. Yeah, and so if anyone says anything out of your name, they can say it, but at the end, it really doesn't matter because you know who you are. Yeah, and that's what matters the most.
And I think it's like, I have been surrounded by groups of people who look exactly like me. Now, I want to preface this by saying that it's been really important to us to have people in our life that look like our family. Mm-hmm. We literally go out of we've made friends on Instagram. Some of our really good friends have been people that comment and then I'm like, oh my gosh, you live in Utah. Do you guys want to hang out? Because I'm like, it's good for our kids to see different family dynamics, mixed parents, black families, it's good for them to have all of those things. But I think that at the root of it though, it's how do the people that I choose to surround myself with treat me? How do they make me feel? Do they make me feel like I belong? Yeah. Do I feel safe there? Mm-hmm. And you can get that from all types of groups of people,
But you only will have the confidence to ask that question if you feel strong about yourself. And that's where it goes back to those positive affirmations. Because if you ask that question and someone's like, they don't make me feel good, and you think that that's okay because you don't believe that you are a son of God, that you are a powerful individual, that you don't, if you don't believe that inside, then you'll just sit in it, right? You'll just marinate in that negative space. Yeah. If you know that you really are a son of a king, right? Mm-hmm. Or a daughter of a king, right? You really are that wonderful, magnificent person that you are. You're not going to put up with anything less than spectacular treatment. Mm-hmm. And so then you will do a better job of surrounding yourself with people that will respect you and build you up, lift you up, make you a better person. And you darn well better be doing that to those people around you as well, right? Yeah. We're not trying to be, divas in any way, shape, or form. But it's
but we are.
I am a wonderful son of God. Yeah. And I want to surround myself with other sons and other queens, right? Mm-hmm. And I got to treat you guys, because if I believe that I'm a son of God, I got to treat you guys like you guys are sons of God as well. Right. Right. Yeah. And that means utmost respect. No matter what you look like, we might be a different branch of that same tree, right? We're not that far removed. So
I always tell my wife too, especially she's half black, half white. I always say you got the best of both worlds. You need to embrace both sides. And you have the opportunity to actually stand up, for your white side and your black side. And that's actually the best place you could be, because if someone is talking bad about white folks, you need to say something. If someone's talking bad about black folks, you need to say something. That's why you kind of have to bring and learn from both sides and actually be one for yourself too as well. So and I think a lot of times it's sometimes she's now I love how you doing your daughter's hair. She's now embracing her hair. Last time she went to church with her hair all poofy at church, and someone was like, Yeah, making them some comments,
too.
you know.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Gotta watch out for people.
Oh,
yeah, they call it.
I can't.
She'll tell you about it.
that could be a whole nother episode.
As soon as he said that, I was like,
You gotta learn not to lean forward when you pray. That's it.
or like my
Kid in the
daughter
front
is
row.
7 and she's really good about, like, she's 7 and she has a really good voice.
Don't touch my hair.
Don't touch my hair. And she's 7. And I'm like, that should not. So yes, that's a whole separate thing.
There's boundaries, everybody. You don't just run in and touch anybody who's a stranger. And just
Again, I have a white child. No one has ever, no one has ever tried to touch his hair. It's not, people try to say like, oh, it's just like a cute thing that, you know, and I'm like, no, it's not. I've seen it both ways. It's not.
We went to the same school every second.
I will say it is a universal human trait.
Yeah.
When I served my mission in Africa, and all my white companions, little kids would come up to them like,
oh yeah.
So when
it's like not what your norm is.
Yeah.
People do that. I mean, we talk about this too, where little kids in a store will be like, Mom, why is he black? Like so loud, you know, and Bedford's so cool about it. Like he's very like, hey, because parents are so quick to be like, oh, no, like, you know, but Bedford's really like, no, cool, it's fine. Like this isn't taboo. Like look at my skin, look at your skin. It's the same.
You can actually tell if you look real close, it's about the same. The only thing is different. And what is it? And like, the color's different.
But it is. It's totally just a universal, like, this is not normal.
Yeah.
I give my son cornrows the other day, you know, and we went to church and somebody said, man, you give him dreads already? I was like, I don't want it. This is not dreads. Come on, man.
Kids are a little more racist in Africa. even not all kids.
Disclaimer, not all kids.
I said in Africa.
In Africa.
I had kids, like, 'cause I'm obviously mixed. They thought I was white anytime I was with a black companion. And little kids would come up on the streets like, Mzungu, how are you? Mzungu, how are you? I'm like, and then Mzungu means white man. I'm like,
sir?
How white before? What's going on?
I'm like, look at my hair. I won't take my hat off. Sleep. Like, look at my hair. Look at yours. Like, we're the same, just a little lighter. Like, Mzungu.
Even in Haiti too, like they call me Grimo. You know, Grimo means like white boy. You know, in Haiti, like I was like, it's because I'm a little shade. You know, what about him over there? He's way lighter.
Everywhere.
Interesting. And it's funny that you can see that every culture has something.
Oh,
you know, I think that's the human condition, unfortunately, and that we always try to find a difference in one another.
Oh yeah.
And if we, though we are different, you know, on the outside, it's what matters on the inside.
Yeah.
That's what brings us together, and that's what keeps us cohesive and, you know, thriving.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so this episode has honestly, or just this conversation has been really enlightening and educational. I hope the people who listen today are really inspired in hearing you guys' story and how to, you know, get through the world with, you know, being in an interracial relationship and just living life. You know, everyone has things that they've gone through, and sometimes people just don't kind of keep that under wraps. But it's good that you guys are sharing that to let people know that they're not alone. You know, and so we really appreciate you guys for what you've shared. Is there any last thoughts you would want to share with our audience, or anything to check out your web, or not your web page, but your podcast? Where can they find you?
Well, our handle is Life with the Doors on everything. So, I mean, Bedford has his own, and you can follow him at his own handle, which you can find through mine anyways. But our main account is called Life with the Doors, and that's basically what it is across the board.
Yep.
And so the podcast is called the Open Door Podcast.
Clever.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. See what we did there?
You know, I low-key didn't know the T was.
No one does, and we will,
No.
we will never correct you either. We always just let it go because it does. I mean, even my own kids sometimes. And I'm like, stop. What are you?
Right.
No, they'll say Dort sometimes, and I'm like, what are you?
Like the teacher said it was Dorts. It's like, teacher's wrong.
Who are we listening to? But yeah, so it's called the Open Door Podcast, and it's our brand new baby. We're just kind of trying to grow something new and
go and follow them, guys.
It's a little bit all over the place right now because we're kind of trying to decide like what vibe people want there, but it's fun. We have a good time. So sometimes serious, sometimes funny, sometimes. You know, it's a little bit of everything. So this was really good. I really love these conversations. I really appreciate conversations like this. I feel like, especially for me, I really am like a suction for information. Like I really want to know so that I can be the best version of me, so that I can be the best version for my children, so that, you know, and so I love conversations like this because they always give me an opportunity to kind of grow and learn and do better. And so this is great.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. You guys being here.
So, this has been another episode of Brothers in the Foyer. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Go follow these guys. Check out their Instagram and also their podcast. And we also want to give a special thanks to Serve Clothing, who sponsored this episode. Check out their shirts, the best shirts that they got on the market. It's a shirt with events. You can wear them in the office, wear them at church. You got a missionary that's out in a hot, humid climate. This is the shirt they want. You're not going to be sweating, and it's very breathable, super soft, great shirts. Check out serveclothing.com and use the code FOYERFAM for a discount. This has been another episode, Brothers in the Foyer. See y'all in the next one.
Inviting all to come and try.